Greetings, this is Rick Ward from Working Class Wealth Creations. Continuing on with our series, My Road to Wealth, we're up to deal number 4. If you haven't seen the previous deals, I'd ask you to go back and have a look at those and give them perspective and watching as my education and experience grows to become a full-time investor and to accumulate a multi-million-dollar property portfolio over just a few years without any formal training or experience as an investor or businessman prior to this. So join me now as we look at deal number 4, Bustleton. So following on from our last video, where I purchased a property and put it on my credit card in the morning, and that we raced down in the afternoon to meet up with a real estate agent in the location of Bustleton, WA. It's a seaside holiday sort of town. So we met a real estate agent, and the first thing he did is take us to the first house that we wanted to see. And he said he had a few other ones to line up for comparison. He did tell us that the property was on the market for $145,000. It's been on the market for 12 months, and there wasn't a single offer ever been made. So the vendors were probably getting fairly motivated to sell. So we pulled up to it. There was a picture of the property on the internet, but it looked even worse in real life. There was a dirt driveway out front that circled under an old tin shed. The front of the house was a 1960s beach shack, and it had the fake brick asbestos sheeting on the front of it, and with some rotten wooden steps leading into the kitchen. There were people living there, but it looked quite derelict and neglected. So my wife, she wasn't too keen straight away, but I said, well, let's have a look. And so we went in, you walked into the kitchen, and straight away, it smelled bad. There was grease on the walls and windows. There was carpet in the kitchen, but it was just matted with grease. It was in terrible, dirty shape, very dirty shape. But I tried to look beyond the dirt and look structurally to see if there was cracks in the ceiling, water damage. I was looking from a structural perspective. I was going to be doing some renovations anyway, so I didn't really care what the cosmetics looked like. And we looked into the laundry in the front bathroom. There was a front bathroom. I believe the sewage was all blocked up. It just needed a total gut out. It had old fixings. It was bad again. The 2 bedrooms in the front, they weren't too bad. They had some matted old carpet on them, but the walls were good condition, big windows, light, airy. They weren't bad. And then we moved into the lounge room. Now the lounge room was an extension. This was a 2x1 beach shack in the front, and it was built probably 1960. And they added a 2x1 extension with lounge on the back in 1993. So the back was in pretty good condition. It was on concrete slab. It had modern siding, windows, bathroom was okay. Again, it was quite dirty and matted and neglected. But it definitely was in pretty decent shape. And we get moved to the back. The real estate agent actually confessed to us that in 12 months we were the first people ever to move past the kitchen to look at the rest of the house. And so keep that in mind. So we looked and went to the backyard, big backyard, it's about a 960 square meter block, and I saw the development potential for that in the future. So this is all just looking really good to me. It had a big shed out back. It wasn't powered. The yards were in bad shape. There was old barbecues that were falling apart. The chicken coop was falling apart. And, it was a bit of a mess. So from there, we got back into the car with the real estate agent. He went and showed us some newer homes, and the location of this property was good. It was on the highway, which is a negative, but it was on the beach side of the highway, which is a positive. And there's significant values. You find that in most areas. If you get a map of the house valuations, some streets on one side of the street, it's going to be a lot more expensive than the other, street to street, different locations. So this was in a good area, had a good address. But we looked at some newer areas. There was a few other homes we looked at, and the agent was really good. He gave us some good comparables that were around that $150,000 mark. which was a ballpark of where we were looking at buying. In the end, we found one that we quite liked. It was a beautiful 3-by-1 home. Probably not as desirable neighborhood, but it was nice. It was a nice place. It would have been easy to rent out and wouldn't have required any work. There was nothing for us to really do there. The house was in perfect condition. Could have just bought that, rented out, and moved on. But I think I saw the investment potential in the first house, and I think I really did want to turn my hand into renovating. I did renovate my first house, and I learned a lot of lessons from that. I enjoyed the process, and I thought maybe this time I could do it with a bit more experience and a bit more money behind me to do a better job. But to add value. But overall, I saw it as a better investment opportunity. So in all the books and courses that I've read, it said to get a building inspector. So we hired a building inspector to have a look. And he went through and said, yeah, it was all fine. So we really wanted to make an offer on our primary choice. And so it was listed for $145,000. We made an offer for $125,000, and they took it that same day. They were keen to get out. We did make a condition on that we would get finance, a successful whiteout report, a termite report, and a building inspection report, because we'd read in all the magazines and the books and stuff that you needed to have a building inspection when buying a house. So we signed the contracts. We hired a building inspector. They come out and get an inspection. They said everything was fine. So I went to get quotes for floor covering and plumbers, electricians, things like that for some of the jobs that I wouldn't be able to do myself. Floor covering people come back and said they couldn't put any floor coverings down in the laundry and bathroom because the floors were rotted out. They were made of plywood in wet areas. And they were all rotted out, and they're just easy to see. We missed it when we were looking, and to be honest, I was looking more at the ceilings than I should have been looking at the floors and under the cabinets. There's a lot of stuff I've learned since then. I'll probably do some videos on how to do a good house inspection in the future. But this time, again, I didn't have any experience. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just wanting to get into the process. So when the floor guy just pointed to the floor and showed us, of course, and we just pulled the corner up, and he was right. It was rotted out, and that should have been picked up straight away. And my wife was very angry. We got the bill for the building inspector, and she says, we're not paying for it. The whole idea of having the building inspection, because if they find something like that, we can negotiate down on the price, which I've done on other deals since then. But at the time, that made sense. And they didn't want to. They said, oh, just give us some admin money. They give us a discount. And my wife just said no, and I agreed with her. This cost us a lot of money. We would be able to probably take another $10,000 off the bill had we had a proper building inspection done and we had it in writing. We took something back to negotiate with. But it was too late for that, so we had the house. The bit we'd already signed off on the building inspection because we had it. He said it was fine, so we signed off. We had our finance approved pretty much sorted before we even started the process. We got pre-approved for a loan, so we knew we could borrow about $150,000. So it was pretty much a done deal. We've got the house. It's approximately 2 hours from home. So we thought we'd take 4 weeks off vacation time, my wife and I, and we would live down there and work on the place while we're cleaning it up. And that's what we did. We got a lot done in those 4 weeks, but the jobs always take a lot longer than you anticipate. And it was school holidays, so the kids were off school, but you kind of had to keep them entertained. You couldn't get as much done as you wanted to. But we got the majority of the work done. It was really clean up, quite livable and comfortable, and it was clean. And so we could spend our weekends down there. So on a Friday night, we'd pack up the kids after school and run down there, and we'd spend the weekend renovating. And we did that for about 3 months. The kids enjoyed it up front. It was a good fun. The next door neighbors had a little pony that used to break through the broken fence and come visit. So there were some nice memories from that. And as my older kids, that's the only property they ever remember renovating, because a lot of my next renovations were all a long ways from home, and I did all those on my own. So after that 3 months, the house was finished. It looked fantastic. It went from a real derelict beach shack to a country cottage. It was beautiful. We had we took that carport off and we actually put it in the back, used it as a pergola, cleaned it up a bit. So we got to recycle that. That was a few $1,000s saved. A friend of mine was a carpenter who helped build our main residence, and he said he had some time to come down and give us a hand. And so he helped us build a carport and a front porch on the front of it that just really set the house off, and that added tremendous street appeal. The dirt driveway, we put in a hot mix bitumen driveway. It's the only property I've done that to because it's fairly expensive. There's other ways of getting cheaper driveways and things like that, but it did look fantastic, and we've had that property for 20 years and it's still holding up. It was a really good long-term investment. So, and because it took us 3 months to or 4 months to actually do these renovations, that property boom that was in the metro area had reached Bustleton during this time, and so we had a tenant straight away in there, and our rents were making it quite positive geared compared to what we paid. So we ended up paying $125,000. We put $25,000 for the renovations, and 4 months later that property was worth about $250,000. So in 3 months' time, having the right property cycle, the right people, the right property, our net worth went up $100,000. Block of land that we bought at auction for $3,400 was probably worth about $12,000 at the time. So we had a significant equity straight away, and our rental was positive geared, so it was bringing in a small amount of cash flow as well as all the equity, which really set us up nicely to continue on with our investing. We didn't look at any other more properties in this town because, like I said, the property boom had happened there now, and so properties were quite pricey, and it was going to be a negative geared proposition for me to buy a property with the knowledge I had at the time. The lessons that we learned with property number 4, the Bustleton venture, let's have a look at that. Don't disregard a deal on street appeal. This is an investment. It's not your own house. Look structurally, not cosmetically. You're going to be doing renovations anyway, so you can clean up. Don't worry about smells or dirt. Inspect the entire property. Sometimes the gems lie in the detail or in the back of the properties. Consider locations, positive and negatives, and balance out yourself whether this is a good investment or not, what it's going to cost you to remedy any situation. Compare deals by investment potential. Where's the long-term gain, both short and long-term? Look for an investment, not as your own private home. Profits are greater when you solve problems. I'll do a video on this. There's a whole range of problems you can solve. One of it is the cosmetic looks, but there's real profits that can be made in solving these problems. Learn to do your own building inspections. It's your first time out, get a building inspector, look at the reports, look at what they do, try to be there when he does it so you can see what he does. Become an expert at that. It'll save you a lot of money. And jobs, remember, jobs always take longer and cost more than you think. So I'll allow some contingency both in time and money. So what did the deal look like? So the asking price was $145,000, and we purchased that in 2003. So the asking price was $145,000, purchase price was $125,000, fees was $6,200, renovations cost were $25,000. The total investment of $156,250. Value on that completion was $250,000, and this was largely due to the property cycle moving into the boom phase. The value today in 2019 is about $375,000, which today would give us an unrealized profit of $250,000. Again, testimony to the long-term profits of a renovate, buy, and hold strategy. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give me a thumbs up. So if you're new to this channel and this is the sort of content you'd like to hear, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. You'll be notified as soon as I release any new content. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, or my website, www.workingclasswealthcreation.com. I'd encourage you to share this content with anyone you know that would be interested in, anyone else who's interested in being a first-generation wealth creator. And so until then, this is Rick Ward teaching you how to create, manage, and retain your first-generation wealth.